today?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you. Spring is in the
Yes.
air.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I love that hair up look for you, Camellia. It's very nice.
Oh, thank you.
We appreciate you joining us today. This is a big news story, especially because there's a St. Louis angle on this one. Department of Veterans Affairs, the iconic World War II kiss photograph, apparently too hot for the Department of Veterans Affairs. What's the story? And then let's get into the nitty-gritty details later.
I mean, so apparently it sounds like this a VA bigwig. She's not the top person, but RimaAnn Nelson has an axe to grind and thought there was an issue with consent. So she sent a memo out saying that there would be no display of the iconic Times Square, World War II Times Square kiss photograph in any of the VA facilities. And and then her boss, the actual secretary of the VA, caught wind of this by tweet, apparently, and put out a tweet and said, no, I don't think so. Like, let me be clear. He said, this image is not banned from VA facilities and we will keep it in VA facilities. Now, the question for me is, are they going to fire her? Because when we talk about all of the things that she has done, they should have fired her many, many, many years ago. And how
Yeah.
she has definitely failed up.
Yeah. So she's a VA bigwig by the name of RimaAnn Nelson. She headed the department's St. Louis hospital for more than 3 years, during which time the facility was rated the worst in the country. Patients allegedly were left in their feces for days, and more than 1,800 of our nation's heroes were exposed to HIV and hepatitis from unsterilized dental equipment. What in God's green earth does she have any business doing in charge of anything?
Well, when you take her from a horrid situation like that and say, "Oh, you've done such a bad job here. Let's send you to another facility because you'll do a better job there, right?" So well, they sent her to the Philippines, I think. but but I mean, when Obama was in office, there was, that's when she was appointed, and there was a bipartisan effort to block her appointment. In fact, Kristen Sinema was on the Democrat side of that effort to block that appointment. And I don't know what his motivation was, given her track record in appointing her to a position with more power, but clearly it's still not working out.
Well, we're going to get into the details of the logic or reasoning behind banning something like this one, or what they might argue is the reason. So she was quoted as saying that the kiss of the woman wasn't a romantic event. It was just an event of thank God the war is over kind of thing. Do I really need to state the obvious here that Jabba the Hutt might be a little bit jealous that no man wants to grab a big giant whale of a woman like her and kiss them on the streets, even if it was the end of goddamn World War II?
Well, we can talk about like the real story behind the kiss and everything later, but that's true. I mean, it's romanticized, right? That's true. But
It's romantic.
It was right on it was immediately after the announcement of the end of the war. People were out in the streets celebrating. They were going to bars, they were drinking. It was a national celebration, and especially for, members of the military who had been involved in that and were on leave, and heard that news that they don't have to go back to that. I mean, and the horrific scenes that they had seen. So yes, I do think that
it's because they hate men, isn't it?
In her case, probably so.
Yes, but I mean, she is a symptom of the underlying disease.
Right.
They don't like expressions of pure, unbridled masculinity, which is what this photograph is, isn't it?
Yeah, in some ways, yes.
In some ways. What do you mean in some ways? You're
well,
dithering.
I suppose unbridled is accurate, because it was, shall we say, unbridled, inebriated masculinity.
That's right. Men take what they want when they see what they like. That's right. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm joined by Camellia Peterson. We are not related. Camellia is our Tuesday, Thursday regular guest, and she's a big supporter of the show. We're glad to have her here. Camellia, what is the story behind this iconic kiss photograph?
Okay, so real quick here, I do want to point out that this is kind of another example. The term is escaping my mind for what we call this. So basically, she's trying to take today's standards and our culture and society
Presentism.
today and apply presentism. Thank you, and apply it to however long ago that was. So I mean, like decades ago, and this is another example of that. So yes, is the real story not quite so romantic and everything? Yes, I find it a fascinating story because for a long, long time, they actually didn't know who these people were in that photograph. And many people came forward and claimed that they were the sailor and they were that nurse, but nobody was able to prove it. And finally, a couple of people did come forward. And the real story behind that is the way they really could verify that is there was another woman in that picture. And so that man who, impulsively grabbed a woman and kissed her. He had been over there during the Pearl Harbor bombing and he was home on leave and he had, was going to go on a date with a girl that he met at a family barbecue the last time he was home. So they're in a movie theater and all of a sudden in the middle of the movie, they close everything down and they announce that, there's the end of the war with Japan and like there's a ceasefire and so everybody pours out into the streets. They go to the bars. That's what they did. So he and his girl on their first date, they went to the bar. He drank a lot and they came out into the street. And so for him, with the terrible tragedies that he had seen, he had some very real impressions and positive experiences with what nurses did in the war for those sailors. And so he came out, he saw a woman in a nurse's uniform and all of those feelings welled up and he grabbed her and kissed her and his date standing by looking on.
So wait a minute, was it his date that actually confirmed who the true two people were?
Yes, because she was there and she's in the picture. That's great.
He's right? On a date with another woman and he grabs her and he kisses her because she's in the nurse's uniform. You can't make it up. God bless America. I miss this.
And the thing is,
I miss this, America.
The woman that he kissed, she was actually not even a nurse. She was in dental school. She was just, she was going home from, school or whatever it was. And like this man just grabbed her and she couldn't do anything about it. And what's funny in later years when a person who wrote a book about this was interviewing all of these people or the people who were still living at the time, her husband of the woman, I think her name was Greta. Yeah, Greta. And she had been born in Austria, so she was an immigrant. And her husband in their later years when they were talking about this, he said, he looked at the picture and he said, like in the picture, I guess her thumb like sticks out a certain way or something like that. He said, when you get tense, he was like, your hands tense up and your thumb like sticks out like an odd angle like that or something. And so there were just little things that you could tell about it. And she said like nothing was said about it. She never told anyone. And George and his wife Rita have never, they didn't talk about it afterwards. They never discussed it. Rita said, she wasn't offended. Like in the heat of the moment and the celebration, like it was a first date, it wasn't a big deal. Now I will tell you, like from Greta's perspective, it was probably a little bigger deal. But if a very inebriated man planted one on me in the street, I might have something to say about it because, first of all, like inebriated.
Stop it. Boo, this woman. Boo. First of all, pause. I'm stopping this interview down right there. Okay. All right. So before I continue on and make Camellia continue to blush here, because I'm going to say some very controversial things. Please do us a favor if you're enjoying the show and click like and subscribe because where the hell else are you going to get fun and funny content like this in the mornings? Okay. Camellia, you are a single mother. You are beautiful. You are intelligent. You are strong. But are you going to tell me that at the end of World War III, when Vladimir Putin finally nukes China or whatever, and Japan decides to declare war on, Taiwan gets invaded, and then we all fight this bloody conflict, and a handsome young, let's say mid to late 20s sailor comes up and grabs you in the street. He may have the stink of alcohol on his breath, but if it's a nice, delicious oatmeal stout like the kind I know that you like, are you telling me you are not going to swoon into his arms?
I would not be offended.
Oh, see, I knew it. See, I knew it. And if I could just break down the anatomy of this kiss for a moment, I like that I like that you're pointing out the thumb thing, because I didn't notice that about this photograph. I do have it pulled up on screen while we're talking here. But I mean, the woman who was wanting to take the photograph down was saying it wasn't romantic. One of the things that I think is just deeply romantic about this photograph is the way that he's holding her, because not only does he have his hand around his waist, but he is very firmly supporting her the dip. It's
Right?
the
It's
dip,
the
and
dip.
she's got her shoes are like listen, when a girl
Yeah.
is into it, one of those legs always comes up. Okay. And she's
True.
got one of her feet, her dainty little shoes are perched off of the ground from that dip. And the way that his arm, he's making a fist as he holds her in one hand. Don't you believe that this is deeply romantic?
I do. And I do
Okay.
think that it speaks to the difference also when we talk about the masculinity movement today. It does speak to the difference between how men carry themselves then versus now. And, I kind of laugh sometimes because there's an old, I don't know if it's Listerine ad that comes up sometimes with this list of things that you do, when you're on a date with a woman or whatever. And it's like, and one of the things on there, well, one of the things on there is like, look deeply in her eyes and sigh. Well, that's kind of funny, whatever. But it also says, don't tell her before you kiss her. Like that would be taboo now. Like there's no consent there. But I mean, that
Is
is
it
part of it, right? Though we have gotten to the point where you cannot you cannot act based on your reading of someone's body language and their response to you, which is, I mean, that's sad. That's unfortunate because I think that actually is a decline in our communication skills as humans with each other.
if a guy sidled up next to you, Camellia, and say, he's, you can tell he's interested in you romantically, and he looks lovingly into your eyes and simpers, "May I kiss
Oh
you?"
God.
What what are you gonna say, Camellia?
I'll probably be a little speechless. Or like, what? No, here's the truth. For all the women talking about consent, this is probably going to get me in trouble with some
Yeah,
people.
say it,
But
say it, say
anyway,
it, say it.
for all the women talking about consent, um, I would say 99% of women out there are going to like it if a man just grabs them and kisses them. No permission, no namby-pamby, messing around. Just like, do it.
Woo!
Now, for a man, in fairness, like this is risk taking, right? So some of this is on men too, because this is risk taking. So you may misread her and she may not be into it and you may get slapped, but you know what? Deal.
I like to tell men it's kind of like the mating dance of the black widow spiders. The
Oh
the
no.
male approaches the large female and he does his little dance. And if she likes his dance, then she may allow him to mate. But if she doesn't like his dance, and she doesn't most of the time, then she's going to eat you. So be prepared.
Oh man, yeah, no, it is. That's one thing that they talk a lot about is that when you talk about the red pill movement, masculinity movement, the men who are putting out quality content in that realm for guys who didn't grow up with this and they need it, is that they do talk about you have to put yourself out there and you have to ask, you have to do these things, you have to just be assertive in what you do and go in with your eyes wide open, knowing that you're going to be rejected. You will get rejected. And like, you just kind of have to like, you have to build up a, I don't know, you have to build up a tolerance for that, right? I mean, women do too, to be honest. Like, women often react badly to being rejected. So women have to do the same thing.
It's sad, the state of modern courtship. I see so many videos, and maybe this is just a self-selection bias, of young women who are complaining on camera about how they never get approached by men anymore. That men don't approach them. They don't even, the men are even leaving dating apps. And it has a lot to do with the fact that men don't want to get eaten by the black widow spider, right? And there's a difference between like a regular courtship process and just getting shot down, and the kind of like career destroying cancel culture that can be
Yeah.
engaged in if a woman gets the ick when she's approached by a man. And let's be honest, most women do not like most men. You are the choosy ones. And the pool of available men, I mean, even for a woman like yourself, I mean, not to make it too personal, Camellia, you're beautiful, you're well spoken, you're intelligent, you're a mover and shaker, you have a great career, a great job. The pool of available men for a woman like you is it's just mind-blowingly, stunningly
Right.
small. The pool of
That's true.
available men for women like yourself. So you're all fighting and competing for what used to be the top 10% of men. But at this point now, it's like you heard this point from Inez Stepman that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago, where she
Yeah.
talked about essentially the United States has become a polygamous nation because, and we're not talking about marriage here, we're talking about one man with many
Right.
women, where women being so choosy now, and dating apps and the culture have really contributed to it. Social media has inflated women's egos to the point of beyond ridiculousness, to where one man has, women would rather share a good, powerful, great man than they would settle for an average man. Am I wrong?
So, well,
Mm,
not
mm.
as a not as a generality. Like, there are women who are exceptions to that rule, obviously. I am one. Like, I will go none versus sharing. But but the point remains. I mean, yeah, she's talking about serial monogamy, and that this, I think, is part of the challenge that we face in a very mobile, a very digital, advanced society now, is that you are not limited to the people who are just around you in your community, that you go to school with, that you work with. Like, it's a wide open world for your options now. There's some drawbacks to that in terms of, the what you think you can get versus what you really can get. And not to mention, with the rise of feminism in, and now in its negative forms as well, women are much more highly educated, and there are not as many men getting college degrees now as women. And also, I just saw a stat yesterday. Our friend Hannah Cox was talking about it, where the like more single women are homeowners than men. And so that's, I like that. It's a whole different dynamic. And I think that we have to find a way to adapt to that. And I know men are like, forget that, we're getting the short end of the stick, we're walking away from this. But my message, to men, and this is not that they need to, like, forget you, MGTOW, whatever. I think that men need to push through and be the men that they're supposed to be, in spite of all of the extreme feminist women and who are driving some of these trends. Because, like, if we ever want to restore that balance, we need men playing their proper roles.
There you go, Camellia Peterson. Let's see men in their proper roles, and let's see women in theirs as well. Camellia,
In the
thank you for your
kitchen,
time.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Camellia, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it. Great segment as always. Let's give a round of applause. Anything else you want to share or plug before we let you go?
No, well, spring is in the air, right? I'm so happy the crocuses and the daffodils are blooming, and I would just like to remind everybody, that it's swimsuit season coming up, and there's a great article on the Libertarian Republic.com that's entitled "No one is obligated to find you sexy." So we all want to work on being healthy and, getting in shape and, getting some muscles. I'm doing that too, but in the end, like manage your expectations. It's a great article. We need to put that again. It's
Yep.
an old
I
one,
love
but it's
working out, but
timeless.
unfortunately, I also love drinking beer. Camellia Peterson, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate you, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day. What do you guys think of Camellia Peterson? Great conversations. And they happen right here on the Wake Up America show. So click like and subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time here joining us on the show, we'd like to have you come back. I mean, where else are you going to have fun conversations like that? It's Thirsty Thursday, which means we get the beautiful ladies on the show, and Daniela Pensack will be joining us here in about 10